All right, let's move on to a little bit of fantasy football. For this segment, we are each going to pick one player that is overrated in fantasy, one player that is underrated in fantasy. Kai, why don't you go first?
Yeah, man. So I know you guys know who I'm going to say, and it's a little bit controversial. And this is not a knock on this player. I just
It's
think,
crazy.
just purely from a value perspective, where you can get him in the draft, I don't like him. But so I'm going with Derrick Henry as overrated.
Wow. Wow.
So
Oh,
here's the background. So he's turning 30 this year. Right. He's getting old. There's a lot of tread on those tires. He's been that bell cow for a while now, since 2016, I believe. So I think this might be a year where he hits the wall. You got greater risk of injury and not quite what he used to be. I think also if you look at this O line, they lost three guys from last year, and the guys who you got to fill those positions were two career backup linemen and a rookie. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to pan out. Right now, his ADP is 21, and he's running back number 8. So if you look at the guys who are going after him, it's Ramondre Stevenson, Brees Hall, ETN, and Najee. And those are all guys who I think you can definitely get later on if you're needing a good running back or RB2. So yeah, that's what I have him there. I think obviously if he falls to the right spot, I have no issue with getting him. But I think just at that ADP of 21, I think there's some other options there that you can go with. So that's what I have there. Do you want to go all around and say everybody's overrated, or should I go ahead and go with my underrated as well?
Um, why don't you say you're
yeah,
underrated?
go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. So my underrated guy is going to be Damian Pierce, and I'm not going to lie,
Love that.
this is a little bit of a homer pick since he went to UF, but last year in only 13 games he hit 1,000 yards, averaged 17 carries a game, volumes there. And his ADP right now is 46. So I think if you look at guys in front of him, you have Aaron Jones, Gibbs, and Walker of the Seahawks. So I think this is a spot where if some guys like that fall to you, you can go ahead and wait and pick Damian Pierce there. I just think the upside is so big that it's worth a shot. I think the downside is very low. I know that they brought in another running back. I think Singletary, I want to say. So he might not have that like clear cut all the touches he got last year, but I think just purely based on upside, I think it's worth a pick there. So
I like it. I will say, um, yeah, Pierce, he's so efficient with his touches. I mean, he's an angry runner.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure. I love that clip of him against Florida State where his helmet falls off and he keeps running, even though he got the penalty.
Beautiful.
I mean, that's great.
That's
He
gorgeous.
was
Well,
different.
I do understand your reasoning behind the Derrick Henry pick, Kai, but he hasn't really shown signs of slowing down.
That's no, that's
So I'm
completely
not
fair. That's
entirely
completely
buying
fair.
it.
People
Yeah,
say he's gonna slow down every year, and
that's
But
he
true.
hasn't.
Yep.
I also think what discredits Kai a little bit is that his ADP is not like insane.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the more fair ones, but if he gets injured, obviously his ADP would be terrible because he wouldn't
yeah.
produce. But yeah.
I think Henry's going about where he needs to be right now. And until he proves
Yeah,
otherwise, I think it's a fine pick.
Yeah, so in conclusion, Kai, we don't like it. Anyways, Christos,
I'll live with it.
I
I'll
hope
live
I
with it.
hope you can do better. No, I'm kidding. I love you, Kai.
Much
Okay.
love.
So for my overrated player, I have DeAndre Hopkins, and
Ah,
let me explain why.
wow.
One, he's getting up there in age. He's been missing some games the past few years, and he's ranked as the wide receiver 22 right now, in the same tier as Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, Debo Samuel, and DJ Moore. I know who I would rather have.
I agree.
Now, the thing that really concerns me about him and his ADP is that in Tennessee, receivers tend to rotate a lot just because of how run heavy they are. I think I saw a stat that AJ Brown had like the highest like snap share on the team when he was like popping. It was like 88%. And the drop off after him is like huge. And I think that Traylon Burks is gonna take that next step, have the higher snap share and all that. Now, I think he's going to be a good player for them, just not a good fantasy player. Like, it's important to distinguish between those two because there's not going to be enough volume. You have Burks, who looks amazing in training camp, O'Connor with a tight end, and this slot guy, Phillips, that they just got. Again, he's a good player, but his ADP is that little wide receiver dead zone where there's not that many good options.
Not a lot
you
of
can
talent.
draft like Mixon or Alexander Madison or Swift. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I see your point. Yeah.
so that's D-Hop. For my underrated pick, I have Christian Watson.
What a pick.
I mean,
Wow.
he's the only one that has shown any chemistry with Jordan Love going back to last year. I think he's going in the end of the 6th round right now, and he has the potential to be the best receiver on a team that's gonna probably be down a lot. No offense. So he's gonna get that volume. He's a good wide receiver too. I feel like for the 6th round, that's a good spot to get him.
Really like it. I mean, putting aside everything, I think that him going at the beginning of the 6th is a little outrageous.
Yeah.
He's the clear-cut wide receiver 1 on this
And
team. So
I didn't know this till I did some research, but like the reason he had a slow start last year was because he had some nagging injuries. So then after I think it was like week 8, he completely turned it around.
yeah.
I think he
I mean,
scored
he's a
7
touchdown merchant.
touchdowns.
He's a touchdown
That's-
merchant.
Yeah, I mean, and also second year guy, we know that wide receivers take that next step in year 2.
Love that.
I love him.
That's sound logic. I sound like a total like dick, but like I mean like I agree with him. Does anyone have anything else to say about Christian Watson?
Or D-Hub.
I think it's solid picks.
All right.
Yeah,
I like it. I like it too.
Yeah.
I like it
just
too.
say just real quick, just kind of the same thing we talked about with Michael. I don't know how it's going to translate with Jordan Love being the full-time
Yeah.
starter. So there's a little bit of question marks there, but
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree with you.
He's
I think
definitely
he's the
the go-to guy though for him. Like you said, they got that chemistry.
Yeah.
So
He's the
We'll
only
see.
guy that we've seen any chemistry between the quarterback and receiver.
sure.
And they're going to be down, I feel like. So,
Yeah.
good
I
games
can
for
get behind that.
And sorry, one last thing with D Hop. I think I agree with you. He's being a little overrated, but I think there's this perception of the Titans, these wide receivers that go there, and really there's no correlation with like going to this team and being bad. So I think people are just kind of remembering like those guys like Julio and Andre Johnson and those guys who went and
Robert Woods.
yeah, and
Last year.
didn't necessarily succeed. So just because he's going to the Titans doesn't
Yeah.
mean he's going to be bad. But I think he's definitely getting older. So I agree with you
No,
there.
I agree with you. I think he's going to be a pretty solid player for them. Like, he's
Yeah.
not a bad player, just not a good fantasy player.
Sure. Yeah.
Like it. He's gonna be a good leader, I'd say.
Yeah.
Shep.
Yeah, so for my underrated player, I have. Oh wait, are we doing underrated or overrated first?
Both.
Whatever you
doesn't
want
matter.
to.
Okay. I'll start with overrated because I think that's what both Kai and Raptor said. But so for my overrated, I have Kenneth Walker from the Seattle Seahawks. Currently, Walker has an ADP of 35, and he's being drafted as the RB 14. Which is higher than Deebo Samuel, Amari Cooper, Jameer Gibbs, Aaron Jones, and Damian Pierce. Despite the departure of Rashad Penny, I still don't think that being drafted as an RB14 is right for Walker. He averaged 15.8 fantasy points per game last year, but he was only in because Penny went down. Penny was a better back than him at the start of the season. They went with Penny before they went with Walker. Walker came in as a filler, and he took advantage of the role. Does he repeat it? I'm not sure. Another challenge that he faces is that in the 2nd round, the Seahawks used their pick on rookie running back Zach Charbonnet. And if you take a back in the second round, you can reasonably assume that the guy is going to play a decent role in your offense, a sizable role at that.
Just
So
plugging and chugging
I
running backs.
yeah, I just don't see the value at 35 with Walker, and I think that I would take Gibbs over him, I would take Jones over him, and I would take guys like Debo and Amari Cooper over him.
I agree.
For my underrated, I got Calvin Ridley, who's going at an ADP of 48. He's being drafted as a wide receiver 19, and this is a guy that's being taken at the 4-5 turn. And the last time that we saw a healthy Calvin Ridley season, he was being taken at the 2-3 turn. I remember because I did it.
And he was a steal.
Because I did it. He was a steal, but then he got suspended because he was on FanDuel. So, but the guys that he's being taken behind are guys like TJ Hawkinson. He's being taken behind Damian Pierce. He's being taken behind Amari Cooper. Yeah. If this is the same Calvin Ridley that was suiting up for Atlanta 2 years back, this is an absolute steal at 48. This is an absolute steal. He has wide receiver 1 potential, and he's being drafted as a wide receiver 19. I think he's one of the best picks that you can make right now in fantasy. Yeah. And he's having, he's getting thrown the ball from Trevor Lawrence. I mean, in a division that, I know their schedule's rough, but most of their games, their division rivals have some dog defenses with some dog secondaries. I'm telling you, this pick is money. It's cash.
And I think his ADP is going to go up because he's getting glazed by the Jaguars admin.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, seriously, he's getting posted every second. So I think his ADP is going to go up. I think he's going to be a real good pick.
I'd be willing to bet that he's pretty good.
Did you see that video of them comparing Zay Jones routes to Ridley's routes, bro? I was like, it was hard for me to believe that wasn't edited the way Ridley was running those routes. It was wild. Man.
He's got a passion and a vengeance. Joey, tell me your picks.
Mm-hmm. So for overrated, I have Aaron Jones. He's currently going around like the 13th running back taken. And that's mainly because, and I'm saying he's overrated because he no longer has one of the most talented quarterbacks in the history of the NFL on his team. People weren't scared of Aaron Jones on the Packers. People were scared of Aaron Rodgers. So now that there's Jordan Love, I could see teams stacking the box. Probably not going to get as many dump downs either because press coverage. And also he's splitting carries with AJ Dillon. It's fully just a running back tandem now. Yeah. The carries last year were 213 for Aaron Jones, 187 for AJ Dillon. Aaron Jones had 2 rushing touchdowns. AJ Dillon had 7.
Yeah. And you may expect me to hate that pick, but I think that because of the running back tandem, I can respect that pick because realistically, the offense will not do better if you just start Aaron Jones and play AJ Dillon secondarily. It's going to be better if you play the guy that has the hot hand and that's running better. So that can be either guy, any given Sunday. I'm not going to say I like it, but I can respect it.
All right. And for my underrated guy, I have also another running back in that division, Alexander Mattison. He's currently going around 19th running back, and I could see him legitimately being top 5. He might lead running. No, I'm not going to say that, but I could see him being top 5.
Say it, Joey.
Say it,
Joey.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Career backup, leading the league in rushing. There we go.
That offense is stacked.
In 5 career starts, Madison is averaging 142.8 yards per game and has 4 touchdowns in those 5 starts. He also has 22 receptions in those 5 starts. He's gonna produce like Dalvin Cook did. He has the same big play potential. Dalvin Cook runs a 4.5 40. Madison runs a 4.55. And behind Madison is Ty Chandler, Keeney Nwangwu, and Dwayne McBride.
Studs.
He is
gonna they're not running a committee.
Gonna be a workhorse.
I love that.
No committee there.
I like that.
My only pushback on that is I'm just kind of looking at his career stats here. He's never averaged 5 yards per carry, which is slightly concerning, even in those starts.
Well, in his 5 career starts, he has a 4.58 yards per carry. That's not bad.
That's good.
That's not bad.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, that's really solid.
I think the opportunity is definitely going to be there. So
I like it. All right. My pick for the overrated are Lamar Jackson's weapons, specifically his receiving weapons. This is not to do with their talent, it is to do with Lamar's talent entirely. Lamar Jackson, QBR during his MVP season was 83. Ever since then, it has not exceeded 67. Another picture to be painted, Lamar has regressed, and all indications point to the defenses that he's playing against figuring him out, and therefore injuries catching up to him, which does not reap rewards for Mark Andrews or Odell Beckham. Lamar had the same amount of games played in 2021 as in 2022, so let's compare both seasons, shall we? In 2021, Lamar had 600 more passing yards than in 2022. That means that he's been far less efficient passing the football between 2021 and 22. What stayed the same? His rushing yards, you may say. So I think that Lamar is going to be a fine fantasy football quarterback. However, I think that if you're looking for his passing game to get more efficient by any stretch of the imagination, I'd say that that is a lost cause. Mark Andrews' progression in his career confirms this. With his 2022 season, he had 56 catches for 654 yards with the same games that Lamar played. And in his 2021 season, Andrews had 67 catches for 853 yards. That's over 200 more yards. Is it over 200? It's literally 1 yard less than 200 more yards with the same amount of games played. Lamar is
Not 200.
regressing, ladies and gentlemen. And and Odell, I mean, obviously Odell's new to the offense. I think that he's going to mirror Hollywood Brown's time in the Ravens, just being frustrated with the lack of targets going his way. I don't think Odell picked the best team to go to, especially because I think that Lamar's just going to be looking to run the football more than he's going to be looking to pass more than ever, especially because defenses have figured him out. Anyone have anything to say about that?
Odell's getting up there in age also in his recent injuries. He's not going to be the same wide receiver he was for the Giants or even for the Rams.
Yeah.
But they just hired a new offensive coordinator. So we don't know what that offense is going to look like. You know what I'm saying?
I think that
like we knew what's his name, Greg Roman had him do. It was primarily run the football. He didn't have the weapons that he has now. So we don't know what he's going to do. Like it's a big question mark. You don't know if it's going to be good, it's going to be bad.
I'm hearing reports from like Ravens training camp saying that the offense is completely revamped under Todd Monken, and that they, it's comparable to like getting out of the Stone Age, is what some people are saying, as far as how often they're throwing the ball compared to how they used to be, which was just ground and pound, run heavy, really focused on the run, almost like a triple option scheme. But
yeah, I like it. And let's go back to Mark Andrews because I didn't even mention his ADP. His ADP is 28 overall. He is the consensus tight end too. I think that frankly, with the way that his career is going and with the way that Lamar's throwing numbers have looked over his career, you would be way better off picking the people that are going behind him and waiting on the tight end, getting a solid guy like Dalton Schultz or TJ Hawkinson, because you could get Travis Etienne Jr., you could get T. Higgins, you could get Chris Olave before him, you could get Keenan Allen, the list goes on and on. I think that Mark Andrews is not going to produce at the same level that he did that one season that Lamar did really well. And let's go to underrated. Keenan Allen. I think that people absolutely sleep on Keenan Allen season after season. He isn't the flashiest player. He isn't on the winningest team, and he was injured for a large chunk of last season, which is why I think he was slept on. Currently, he's the 18th wide receiver off the board. I think he should be the 13th through 15th because of one statistic. He averages 9.87 targets with Justin Herbert per game when he starts as quarterback. Are you joking me? That's 10 PPR points every single game just by lacing up pretty much. I mean, I think that if Keenan Allen stays healthy, he's going to be a 20 points a game producer easy for you, especially with targets, which I think now, I mean, this is a whole fantasy football philosophy, but I think targets, especially in PPR, are the way to win. Because, you could have someone that doesn't really have the talent. You could have someone that isn't really as efficient as those touches. But if you have someone that's getting 10 points a game, I mean, that's the floor, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and before, I mean, he obviously got injured last year, but the 5 seasons before that, 4 out of the 5, he had at least 100 receptions. He's
I
gonna
mean,
get the ball.
The thing with Keenan, I think it's a good pick, but the thing with him, it's been his whole career. Is he gonna stay healthy? That's the only thing.
That's the big
Yeah,
question.
I really like your reasoning behind
Yeah.
Keenan because of his targets and because of, just the sheer amount of volume that he gets. However, they do bring in Quentin Johnston from TCU as a first round pick. I assume that he will definitely play a role, big physical guy, extremely gifted, and I think he'll be getting a little bit of that target share. And then also it does depend on how healthy is Mike Williams as well. I just think a lot of the times, these past couple seasons, Mike Williams' health has always been inconsistent and in question, which could also be a reason why he's getting so much volume from Herbert. But other than that, I really like the pick. I think Allen's gonna do great and set himself up for another top 15 wide receiver season. So
hopefully. Now,
A quick little side tangent, Michael.
hit it.
Your take about Mark Andrews made me think of this, but I feel like Travis Kelce should be taken in anywhere from the 3 to 6 range of picks in drafts. And I don't
100%.
understand,
Kelce.
frankly, why people aren't. I've played fantasy football for the last 7 years or something like that. How many times have you seen a team in the championship that didn't have Travis Kelce on their team?
exactly.
True. It's not.
And the one team I had Travis Kelce on last year, I made the championship. He is miles above all of the other tight ends. And frankly, there's an argument for him being the number 1 or number 2 overall pick.
But the thing is, though, that I think Andrews is the clear-cut number 2, though. And then there's a big gap after him.
I mean, I think that what you're saying doesn't really matter that much, Chris, respectfully, because I think the drop off from 1 to 2 is so huge that even if Andrews finishes as tight end 2 or, has a tight end 2 type season, I think that his ADP at 28 does not warrant him having that drop off of a tight end 2 compared to that tight end 1 spot.
The thing is, you can find receivers in wide receiver 8, 9, 10. After Andrews, I mean, Waller's having a good training camp. Maybe he's gonna be good. But
I like Waller a lot.
What do you have after Andrews?
Consistent
receiving
you
production.
You don't need to take a tight end at 28.
No.
You can wait to have a tight end at 40, get a solid guy, and instead build up those guys around the tight end. Because to Joey's point, after Travis Kelce, the tight ends essentially become useless to me. Especially with what I think about Mark Andrews and how he's going to regress this season. I think that after Travis Kelce, you leave that tight end spot untouched until you build up your team.
I mean, Andrews was injured last year. That's the bottom line. So you don't know.
What do we think about Kyle Pitts?
No,
Oh
Arthur
my
Smith
God.
isn't throwing his tight
I'm
ends.
fading Kyle Pitts. I'm high on the
Jesus.
Falcons. Fading Kyle Pitts.
I
Okay,
love
but then
Kyle
I don't.
Pitts,
No,
but
I'm curious.
On, man.
You're gonna go Kelce, and then who's second? Is it not Andrews to you?
Hawkinson.
It's Andrews.
Yeah, I was just
Andrews.
about to say Hawkinson.
I
can see Hawkinson.
Hawkinson is
averaged
third.
8 targets a game. You kidding me? I mean that's solid.
I
because-
agree though.
What's
I don't see the
Hawkinson's-
value.
I mean, they're gonna. Sorry, go ahead.
What's Hawkinson's
I
ADP?
don't see the value in taking a Andrews at 28 whenever you can get a guy like Cole Kmet in the 7th or 8th round and he'll give you 8 points a game. I just don't.
And let's face it, Mark Andrews' production does not even compare to Travis Kelce's.
No.
They might as well play a different position.
Right.
And TJ Hawkinson's ADP is 44.
So
which
it's
is
not
criminal.
far off. It's a round behind.
Okay, yeah, I don't think Mark Andrews is that separated from TJ Hawkinson to
No, I
warrant
agree with
28
you.
versus 44.
But I think you're ranking him way too low. He gets volume. He's Lamar's favorite target. He has been.
Listen,
And
to the
with a new
audience, if you
offensive
keep watching this
coordinator-
podcast, you will realize that there is one thing that is very, very common. It is that I am not a big fan of Lamar Jackson, specifically his throwing. Throwing the football is something that he is not very good at.
Your takes on OBJ, Zay Flowers, I get that. But I think Mark Andrews is stretching it because no matter how bad Lamar is, he gets his targets. Like,
I mean, he
he's
had
a
a
good
drop
tight
off
end.
last season.
Because he was injured. We talked about that. Like,
He played.
dude,
Stat
he was
muse,
banged
man.
up. He had what, broken ribs or some shit last year. Like, how are you gonna catch the ball easily with broken ribs? Like, I think his regression was kind of a outlier, honestly.
You know, I love the fact that you had Mark Andrews tank your fantasy season last year, and you still support him. I love that. I think that really shows how good of a man you are. But frankly,
If
I
he
don't
was
think you're fooling anybody here, man.
if he was really a bad player, I would agree with you. But I think he's a good player that was injured, had no
He's a great
quarterback.
guy. He's a great guy. He has
Listen,
diabetes. I mean,
I
he's
respect
overcome a lot.
him playing through injury, which a lot of guys don't.
You
I don't
implying
think the
anyone?
regression is something to worry about.
Oh my gosh,
honestly.
dude! I was about to say the meanest thing ever.
No, go ahead, say it.
Go,
Oh,
we'll
really?
We'll cut it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, talking about respecting playing through injuries. I mean, it's great coming from a Tua fan. I love to hear that.
It's crazy.
Oh
That's
my
out.
God.
Yeah,
That's out there.
he's
I'm
playing
sorry.
even though he could have retired.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's playing through injury. Like, what's the point here? I
It's
don't
not
get
good
it.
for anyone, I don't think. But
All it takes is one more hit.
Joey, you said that
Oh.
very menacingly.
All it takes is
No,
one
no,
fake
I'm
knee
just
As
slide.
if he's gonna suit up and take
It
it.
just takes one more fake knee slide and
He doesn't do that
right,
anymore.
His body
He knows
goes
it,
left.
it's not allowed. He
He
knows he's
falls
not
like
going
a
to do that
tree
again.
trunk. All right.
This is
Speaking
ridiculous. Let's end this.
of offensive subjects,
Oh God.
today we have a very, very special draft segment. Today, we as teams